Hi, everybody. Welcome to my home. I'm Dennis Prager, and as I always remind you, this is my real home, my real fire, my real dog, and I'm really me. This is the Fireside chat I have with you every week, and it's completely unrehearsed, not scripted, spontaneous. I take your questions. I offer you some thoughts on very rare occasions, and you can count them truly on the fingers of one hand. I have had guests, and they have to be pretty special. I have had Abraham Lincoln, Aristotle, Moses. I mean, it's a very special crowd. And now Adam Carolla. How do you feel being in the company of Lincoln, Aristotle, and the like?
I don't think I'm at the top of that list. I'm certainly in the middle.
Right.
And while I don't want to bring up who I'm in the middle of because many of them, especially Aristotle, has family members.
No, I get it.
Still around.
That's very thoughtful of you.
Yes.
It's going to embarrass him, so you should close your ears. I think the world of this man. He is a very special human being on every level, and extremely bright. But that's not enough. There are a lot of bright people, but he has a conscience and a mind that go with his brightness. He's unbelievably funny. His very fertile mind. We are really blessed to have each other in each other's lives, which is, of course, a sort of self-aggrandizing statement on my part. I'm assuming he thinks that, but I'll risk it. We really do. We really do feel that we were blessed to somehow come together, and we have actually made a movie together, which will be out this fall. No Safe Spaces, and I know you will love it. It already won an award at one festival that it was at. It's really about, it's a movie. It's not just a documentary. It's about freedom in America. Any thoughts on it?
I'm excited for its release. It's been a long process, and it's been shot over a number of, I guess, years now. And, it's funny because when we initially were having discussions about it, it was in the air, but it wasn't in your face. The speech, campus speech, free speech, hate speech, all this kind of stuff. It was like these were notions that were sort of floating around, but now they're really congealing. And so I think the timing is going to be perfect for the film.
Unfortunately,
yes.
That might be it. By the way, I did not mention that, and this is verified by the Guinness Book of Records. He is the most widely listened to podcast outside of communist China. I just have to assume that some official spokesman of the government may have more downloads in China than you do outside of China. So only on that basis. But they have to listen to
yes.
it. People who listen to you do so voluntarily.
That's right.
You no longer force people to listen to you.
No. I wish I could. I've been doing a podcast for over 10 years now,
wow.
A daily podcast. So it's really been quite a while. I got out of terrestrial radio in about 2009, and then I immediately just started up with podcasting.
And it's really worked. What is it, AdamCarolla.com?
AdamCarolla.com.
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely worth people visiting. I'm very honored by the fact you listen to my radio show, and I'm very touched by that. And you were mentioning to me, it is amazing to you to hear people call in, differ with me, which is fine, and that's why I take their calls. But when there is a complete absence of logic, for example, you gave the example. Well, Dennis, why are you complaining about PragerU being placed on the restricted list by Google? Hey, they do that to the Young Turks. And then I would say, well, yes, but the Young Turks use profanity.
Right.
It's not an ideological issue with Young Turks. It's a profanity issue. With us, there's no profanity.
Right. And then they go back and say, but they're on the no-fly zone as well. They essentially make their point a second time, which wasn't a point the first time. But there's also something I've noticed as well, listening, which is folks on the right who call in and who, on occasion, take umbrage or disagree with something you said, something to do with the Bible. Sometimes, they want to correct you,
Right.
or give you their version of it. The folks that are right leaning, if you say, "All right, well, let me explain that," they stop. The folks that are left
Oh, that
leaning
is so
just
interesting.
bulldoze every time, and you go, "Look, excuse me, you can talk. Just let me answer. Excuse me, you can talk," and they just bulldoze. They filibuster. And you're saying, "I'm going to hang up on you if you don't let me answer this question." You're not allowed to ask 3 questions in a row. I get to answer your first question. The folks on the right, they're still arguing with you. They're capable of stopping and listening to what your rebuttal is, to their assertion. The folks on the left just plow right through to the point where I don't know if they don't hear what you're saying, or I don't know if they don't want to hear what you're going to say.
Yes, they don't. You're right. I think they don't, and they don't want to hear it. Look, I would have any. I publicly announce I would have any New York Times columnist on my show, but they won't come on. And
Right.
I treat people respectfully, but they won't come on. I would go there, but they don't. As I often say, they don't hear us, they don't study under us, they don't watch us, they don't see our movies, nothing. We see their movies, we watch them on television, we hear them on podcasts or radio, we studied under them in school, but there is no equivalent on their side.
Yeah, I was watching Bill Maher saying to Adam Schiff super naively, like, "I wish you'd just go on that Sean Hannity show and settle that guy's hash."
Right.
And Adam Schiff went, I've been invited quite a few times. And Bill was going, "Well, good, then just go and straighten him out." And Adam Schiff was in this really bad position.
Oh,
because
is that interesting?
it was sort of from the mouth of Bills or the mouth of Babes. Bill was like, "You got invited to go on Sean Hannity
Right.
and you didn't go?
Right.
Why not just go and make a fool out of him?"
Exactly.
And Adam Schiff is thinking, "No, I don't want to go because
Right.
I don't want to get beat in the argument."
That's correct.
Obviously, if you were talking prize fighters before we went on, but if you think you can win the fight, you get in the ring.
That's right.
If you're a prize fighter,
That's right.
if that's your profession, and essentially if your profession is to argue with people or to give your opinion or
Right.
to do what Adam Schiff does, if you think you're going to make short work of this guy, then you can't get on the show fast enough.
That's right.
If you think you're going to get bullied and bloodied and maybe not get out of there with a win, then you don't. Now, what Bill Maher was saying is, "I don't get it. Why aren't you
yes.
taking him up on his offer?"
You explained why. You said he was
Right.
naive.
Bill
Bill Maher was naive.
Well, but Bill Maher was saying we here on the left, we talk in a circle to each other. What we need is to go onto the other side of the aisle and explain to them what we're doing and what our points are.
Right.
So his naivete was, "Adam Schiff, go ahead, but I bet you Hannity wouldn't invite you on." When he found out Hannity had invited him multiple times, then he went from naive to confused, which is, well, why don't you go on there? The answer is he's scared.
Of course.
And he's not going to win the fight.
Right. Let me announce one in another way. I will happily go on any MSNBC show that would like to invite me, but it won't happen. And there's a good reason it won't happen. You see, here is a fact, not an opinion. On the right, we are reason-based. On the left, they are emotion-based. It's as simple as that. That's why how do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about it? Oh, when biological men are running against girls in girls' races in high schools in Connecticut, oh, that's totally fair because they consider themselves women.
Right. Well, look, obviously, if you say, "I felt threatened," or "I know what I know," or "in my heart of hearts," it's really hard to argue that away. Who are you to say to someone, "No, you didn't feel threatened"? who are you to say to someone in my heart of hearts? Now, if you want to pull out a spreadsheet and give me a ballpoint pen, we can probably find out where your math was incorrect. But if you felt threatened, there's
Right,
no
but that's
that.
ironic because the name of our movie is No Safe Spaces. Safe Spaces is exactly where kids who think they're threatened if a conservative speaker comes to college. But it doesn't matter that you feel threatened. There's something wrong with you if you feel threatened by a conservative speaker. I don't feel threatened by a left-wing speaker. Why do you feel threatened by a right-wing speaker?
What is so different about it? Like, what I don't understand is I hate world music. It bothers me. I feel like it's a cop-out. It's like reggae with more people. And I just don't like it. So if I was attending a college and they were going to have a world music festival,
right,
I would simply not leave my dorm that day, or I would go to the park and study, but I wouldn't feel threatened, and I wouldn't try to shut down the concert. I would just announce that I will not be attending because I don't agree and don't enjoy with that.
But the analogy isn't entirely perfect because they should go anyway. Your thing is an aesthetic dislike. There's no reason to force yourself. I wouldn't go to a rap concert. I just don't enjoy rap. Fine. But
you'd blend right in.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
That's part.
They might think you're in the band.
That's such a good point.
That someone inevitably would hand you a microphone.
That is why I wouldn't go.
Yeah, that's right. You'd be forced on stage.
No, it wouldn't be right. And I would show them up. It's just it's not right.
Right. They should go, I've heard world music, I don't enjoy it. But maybe you should go hear what Ben Shapiro has to say.
That's right, yes. And I always tell people, make a trade. Your kid doesn't, want to listen to you or doesn't want to listen to me or anyone like us. Make a trade. You'll listen to twice as much of their favorites.
Well, I believe you have to have a certain insecurity with your ideas if you don't want them tested. If you have a very strong sense and relationship with your ideas, or whatever that is. If you're doing a math equation and you've done it all out in long form, you'll happily hand it to somebody. If you feel confident, you'll hand it to a professor and go, scrutinize away.
Right.
I feel, I know I've gotten all my numbers in line. If you're feeling a little iffy, then you sort of put your arm around and you go, don't look at what I'm doing. I don't want it scrutinized. I think there's a notion of we have these feelings, we have these ideas. They don't really hold up to scrutiny, but as long as we can get enough people together who think or are like-minded, we'll never have to offer them up to scrutiny. And there's something that feels insecure because I think when you feel very comfortable with information, the things you know, the things I know. I have an expertise in building. If anybody ever says, "Oh, I'm a world-class builder. I know everything about building," I go, "Come over here and tell me all about it."
Right.
And let's see what you know, and I'll tell you what I know. I don't go, "Oh, someone's found me out."
That's right.
Like
on the
being
contrary,
exposed.
and there's probably part of you that says, maybe he's got a better idea.
Yes.
That's what I react. Oh, you differ with me? You may be right.
Right.
I'm totally open to that.
Right. Well, you should be because it makes you a better builder.
That's the point.
Right.
That's right. By the way, talking to Adam Carolla, for those of you, I don't know, there's no such thing as just tuning in. Are there people who like click in on the middle? Okay, if so, it's Adam Carolla, whose podcast is well worth your time. Listen, what I do is take questions the second half of my half-hour time with people. So I'd like you to respond to some if you feel comfortable. Okay. So this is a fun part. I love this, actually, because you never know who's going to ask from anywhere in the world. All right, Reed, 19, New York, Prager Force. Adam, this is for Adam. Have you performed on a college campus recently? Why have comedians turned away from college campuses in recent years?
Well, I think for obvious reasons. No, I used to perform in the late 90s and early 2000s quite often. I literally toured with Dr. Drew and played big venues and did it frequently, hundreds of colleges. There is obviously, for obvious reasons, whatever you say about comedians, you know, this guy's bold and he's a risk taker and a truth teller. Nobody likes that feeling of being up on stage and saying something and feeling the audience, seeing sort of the air come out of the room a little bit. I do remember once when Dr. Drew and I were playing Syracuse many years ago, and somebody asked a question about getting into broadcasting, and Drew said, it's not worth it to go to school. It's not worth it to take classes. It's not worth it to study. You intern at a radio station. That's what I did. That's what Adam did. That's how you get. And
Right.
you're talking to entire communications, television and radio.
Oh, I knew it.
And I
Oh.
could feel it.
Oh, God.
You could feel it come out because everyone there paying thousands of
That's right.
dollars to do what Drew said will never work and was worthless. The degree is worthless.
That's
and
right.
they're all there trying to earn that degree. And you can feel it.
Oh, God. And Drew was right.
Drew is right, but it was still uncomfortable.
No, of course it is.
But what I'm saying is when you're up on stage and you start into a joke and you can feel the people lean back and kind of go, uh-oh, it's not a good feeling. And there's nothing that makes you say, oh, I want to come back. I mean, the thing about comedians, they'll say all the time, Caroline's or the Laugh Factory or the Comedy Store, or the Improv or the Comedy Cellar. It has a certain vibe. This is what the it's almost like it's like an old bar or something. It has an allure to it or a crowd or a vibe or something like that. College campuses would be the opposite of all the stuff that comedians like. It'd be sterile and angry,
Well, you know,
and they wouldn't understand.
You put in my mind just now what has happened, and that is at a college campus, kids are sitting there, and what they're thinking is, do I have permission to laugh at that joke?
Yes.
Has the left granted me permission, or is it offending anybody?
Right.
You know, I did my last happiness hour. One of the hours of my broadcast week since 1999 is on happiness. And it was about people who are easily offended. And it wasn't political. It had nothing to do with politics. And it is a guarantor of not being happy in life if you are easily offended. You know my favorite story, right?
Yeah,
Where,
this was just a subject from
yes, it was
yesterday,
Friday. It was the last,
Friday.
yeah, the
Right.
last week.
Yes, why would you? It'd be like willing brittle bone disease on yourself.
Yeah,
Why would you
that's
want
great.
that for yourself?
Brittle bone disease. That's exactly
Why would you
right.
want
Yes.
osteoporosis? Why would you want that?
Ted Cruz opened up his Senate session. I should say, I started speaking. This is the U.S. Senate. And I didn't turn the mic on. And he goes, Mr. Prager, you know, for someone in radio as long as one would have thought you would have known to turn the microphone on. So not only was I not offended, I thought it's a hilarious moment.
Right.
And I said, that's exactly right. Your point is extremely well taken. One would think I would have known to turn the button on, but I could imagine people who would have been mortified and being humiliated, but you're not humiliated. That's the point.
Well, you're not humiliated. And, well, no, here's what you are. You are embarrassed to some degree because you screwed the pooch a little bit.
Right.
You were instructed, turn your mic on.
I wasn't instructed, as it happens. No. So in fact, you're right.
They didn't tell you to do that?
No, they did not tell me.
Well, then that's on them.
You're right, but I wasn't going to say that. I say, Senator, I just want to say, nobody told me to do it. Would not look good.
Right. Well,
I looked a lot better going, point well taken.
But I think, so here's what I think, and I have a bunch of thoughts on this. It's okay to be embarrassed. And we've all
Right.
misspoke, misspelled,
Right.
whatever,
Right.
missed everything. that doesn't mean you were humiliated.
That's right.
That just means you made a
That's
mistake.
correct. You're not-
and everyone
right.
makes mistakes, and you
Correct.
can move on. Now, if somebody points out your mistake, it still doesn't mean you're humiliated.
That's right.
It's a part of life. Also, there's a new thing going on where we've lost sight of the meaning of things, and we're simply focusing on certain buzzwords that may
That's right.
offend.
That's
and
right.
So when 2 years ago, when Matt Damon says, "Look, let's not confuse Al Franken for Harvey Weinstein." What Al Franken
That's
did was
right.
not what
Yes,
Harvey. And everyone
right.
went, "What are you talking about? Shut up! There, you don't know that.
Right.
That's well." That's a completely accurate statement.
Completely accurate.
Just because you heard the name Weinstein
That's
and
right,
you heard
yes.
Franken
You've-
and you heard let's not
Right.
mistake what he did with that. Just because there was this stew of words, it doesn't
That's
mean
right.
it's goulash.
Well, look, the perfect example is the recent thing with Baltimore, and you have the president says, there are rats and rodents in Baltimore, and I played on my show the mayor of Baltimore, black female mayor of Baltimore, last year on television, saying, got a lot of rats here. He didn't say people were rats. He said the rodent called rats. Unfortunately, there were too many of them in Baltimore. That's either true or not true, but it isn't racist. It's either true or false.
Well, here's what I wrote a book called "In 50 Years We'll Be Chicks," and it happened fast. And I'll tell you, there's a kind of a thinking, which is, it's a little more feminine than masculine, but more men are thinking in a feminine way now.
That's right.
And that's what's causing a lot of this. If
agree.
you talk to a woman who has, let's say, a bad relationship with her stepdad, and they have a history, and basically that's what Trump is. He's everyone's bad stepdad, or he's half the country's bad stepdad. And if that stepdad says to the daughter, "Hey, we're going to go out to dinner tonight, and I hope you're hungry because the portions are big at this place," she walks into the next room and said, "He called me fat."
That's right.
Because that's what she heard through her process. Now, you're sitting in the room, that's not what you heard, because you don't have her wiring, and you're not reacting, and
Right.
you're not being triggered, and you don't have the history. So you simply just hear the tweet or hear the statement or hear what it was. Everyone else is reacting like the stepdaughter who has the bad relationship, and they're hearing that. I mean, it also sells newspapers,
Right,
obviously.
but the task of life is to rise above that, is to hear what is actually said, not what my heart hears. That's called growing up.
Yeah, that's your task, and that's your
That's
wish.
That's all of
and
our
that's the
tasks.
transition from adolescence or
That's
from
right.
childhood to adulthood. We've interrupted
Yes,
that
that's right.
progression, and we're now living in this sort of circling the adolescent airport well into our 60s. And the thing that cracks me up the most is when I hear these 70-year-old guys on MSNBC saying this kind of stuff in hysterical
Right.
terms.
Weren't you supposed to grow up by now?
Or maybe you were grown up when you were 52, but now you're sliding back into
Right.
adolescence. I don't
Yes.
know. I will say this to tell you a quick story to put a
Yeah.
cap on that. In terms of when people just hear words and react now. So I was sitting at a table at Pebble Beach. I go to do my car race every year. And I was sitting at a table at one of these sort of swanky outdoor fairs. It was in between the car race and the thing. And it was a bunch of gentry type, just 5 white people eating grapes and caviar. And and the one guy, is wearing loafers with no socks, and they're orange suede, and they got buckles on them, and this. And he said, like, "Well, I had the Duesenberg drop top for a while, but I sold that." And the other guy said, "I had the Maserati, 5,300, whatever. And at a certain point, the guy was talking about caviar and Duesenbergs and stuff, and I leaned in and I said, you know, what we're talking about, what we're doing here, I think this is what Black America thinks white America does all day.
Right.
And
talk about their
Duesenbergs
while having caviar.
Right. And the woman went, oh, no, don't go there. Don't go there. And I said, no, I'm making a joke. You know, okay, we've heard enough. We've heard enough.
It's frightening.
And I said, no,
your point was hilarious.
I'm making a joke at our
expense.
At our expense.
Exactly.
He's like, okay, that's enough. That's enough of that. And so she was triggered, in other words,
That's
because
right.
I made a joke about a race, even though we were the butt of the
it doesn't matter.
joke. And she kept jumping in, going, and I was saying to her, no, I'm making it, okay, that's enough. That's where we're at.
That's a perfect story.
That's where we're at now.
Good. By the way, just for the record, he does have caviar at every meal. And did you bring your Duesenberg over tonight?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm having to have it clean because I opened it up and caviar just came spilling out.
Oh, is that what happened? Yes.
And it stained the Connolly leather hides that I
Which
had just
reminds
put in.
me, his background, which is a feature of our film. Did you know what caviar was growing up? If somebody would have said, hey, how would you like some caviar, Adam?
I knew you could use fish eggs for fishing, like as bait, but I didn't know you could eat
and that they
fish
cost
eggs.
a lot of money.
No. Look, we didn't. The Sizzler was a big deal when I was a kid.
We part of the charm of all of this, Adam does this really well, is if you would have thrown darts at a dartboard of the 300 million Americans, of the two most opposite upbringings, we would probably have been the two darts.
Yeah, but we always say we have common sense in common.
That's right, exactly.
And there's a fly that's buzzing around my head, but also
we have that in common too. The fly is bugging. Yes.
But I will say this: I think our parents didn't dote on us.
That's correct.
And they sort of left us alone.
That's correct. And we got a compliment by the decade.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and I mean that. I really believe I was complimented twice in my first 20 years.
Yeah. I remember two. One is Dennis is really doing well in his musical studies. My parents actually complimented you. I didn't even know who you were at the point, so there was no context at all. So no compliments and not a lot of encouragement.
Right.
And thus, there's a certain grounding.
And a fair number of insults.
Yes.
Yes. My father had a statement about me. It resonates in my brain. He thought I was the laziest human being that was outside of a hospital. And it was, what was it? He would look at me and go, if you could sit, Dennis's motto is, if I could sit, why stand? If I could stand, why walk? If I could walk, why run?
Right.
And he forgot if I could lie down, why sit? That was always absent. Now, I remember him saying that. It was not nice. I wasn't crushed. But I certainly didn't grow up thinking I was the essence of the world. My parents did not take the self-esteem course for their children. I watch parents today. I mean, we could do a routine on this. Maybe the next time we do a show together. I see parents going, wow, you really, really made a great poop.
And the kid's 26 at this point, so it really crosses boundaries. But I do know what I do remember that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is our time frame? Okay. And the kid is 26.
Still living at home.
That was perfect. That was perfect. I don't think you should spend your time insulting your kids. That is not my point at all. However, those of us who grew up in a somewhat tougher, I don't mean abused, but a somewhat tougher environment, I think did better in terms of happiness in life than those who were constantly told how terrific they are by their parents. That's my theory. I mean, there are two examples that are sitting here.
Well, why would you want that grafted onto you? Isn't it impossible to graft that onto somebody? I mean, you have to discover your worth, and the world will quickly tell you
That's
your
right.
worth. It'll tell you if people want to listen to your podcast. It'll when I was a carpenter, my work was all referral. People, I would do a job and then I would go back to the same house and do another job. It wouldn't matter what anyone said. It was, does the person want you to come back and do more
That's
of what you
right.
already did?
Yes. That's life will judge me. That is exactly right.
By the way, when you're not going to get a second date, when you go out on a first date and the woman has no intention of going out on the second date, she will talk more positively, I believe, about the first date. She'll go, "That was fantastic. Next week is not good, but that was a fantastic
That's
date.
right.
You're
That's
a fantastic
exactly right.
individual.
Yes.
You should be proud. I love your frames.
Right.
And I can't wait." Again, March is not a good month for me.
Right.
But this was a fantastic outing.
That's right.
People do that.
Right.
It's not going to get you the second date. As a matter of fact, people tend to do that when you have a bad job. When you have a bad job, if you say to somebody, everyone at home, try this. Next time you're at a cocktail party and somebody says, "And what do you do for a living?" You say, "I work at a sewage treatment facility." They'll go, "Oh, that sounds interesting. There must be a strong union or perks
Right.
or something." They'll overcompensate
Oh,
another
right. That's a very- right.
words.
Yes.
For you can say to someone, "I'm a brain surgeon," and they'll go, "Well, that's good. That's
Right.
good. I'm going to get more gazpacho. You want more gazpacho?"
Exactly.
But if you tell them you're a garbage man, they'll go, "Fresh air. You get to ride outside the truck." It's a noble profession.
That is so true.
They'll find some connection. I had a neighbor back when we were in Menominee, Wisconsin. We had a neighbor who was a garbage man. Great guy.
Exactly.
Great guy.
It's
Salt of the earth.
Totally astute. The point that we're both making is, and we haven't rehearsed this, but I know for me, and I'm certain for you, that everything that, as a result of our upbringings, everything good that happened is a source of incredible gratitude on our part. I know I've worked and you have worked very hard to get where we are, but we also believe, and we're right, how the good fortune we've had in life. So we walk around grateful. The kid who's given everything, told how terrific they are, has had to earn nothing, is deprived of the happiness that you and I derive on a daily basis.
Yes. Also, it's confusing to us because I don't want to say nobody did anything, but things were not done for us.
Yes.
So it is very surprising to us that when things are done for people,
oh God, is that true?
How
Right.
ingratitude
Yes.
that they have. That's confusing to us. You
That's
think, my God,
exactly.
this person did so much for
Yes.
you and is so generous
Right.
with you and took time to whatever. How can your attitude possibly be this way toward this person or this
Right.
entity that did so much for you?
When you grow up with, get your own coffee, and then your wife actually brings you coffee, you think she is an angel.
Right. It's almost a little confusing.
That's exactly right.
And at the beginning, you do tend to ward it off. Your wife will say, "Can I bring you some coffee?" You go, "Oh, no. I got it. I'm going to
right.
go in the kitchen anyway. I'll just get myself a..." It's a little alien.
It's disconcerting
It's
at the beginning.
disconcerting.
That's correct.
You don't know
Yes.
how to process it.
That's right. So there you go. I always hate ending any of our time together. Adam Carolla and I have this movie, No Safe Spaces. You will love it. We're very proud of it, and it'll be in theaters across the country. Adam, this was a total joy. I too put you in the middle there with Aristotle and Lincoln.
Thank you.
but I won't say which way because I don't want to hurt their feelings. Yes.
Well, he married Jackie Onassis, right?
Aristotle Onassis did, yes. I was
Okay.
thinking of Aristotle
Well, he was
of
he was a
Athens.
shipping guy.
Yeah,
They call him
okay.
the Greek tycoon.
All right,
So
everybody.
he's a great
it's-
man.
Okay.
I'm flattered that you've made that association.
See you next
Seems
week.
bizarre, but I'll take it.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to keep these fireside chats free, please do by donating to PragerU.